It has been over half of a year since the drum gun has been in Fortnite, but due to the recent unvaulting event, it has finally returned. A lot has changed since then, including the original SMG being thrown in the vault, so today we're going to determine what is the best SMG currently in Fortnite, and also analyze the overall state of the drum gun. The drum gun comes in two variants, uncommon and rare, and the in-game stats haven't changed at all since it was vaulted nearly 8 months ago. It still does 27 damage for the highest rarity, has a fire rate of 9 bullets per second, still has the largest SMG magazine in the game at 50, and has a reload speed of 3 seconds. When we compare the stats of the drum gun to that of the other two SMGs currently in the game, you can see that the drum gun does the most damage per bullet by a pretty significant amount. However, all three of these SMGs do have very similar fire rates, with the compact SMG having a very slight edge, being able to fire 1 more bullet per second than the other two. An interesting thing to note here is that the compact SMG and drum gun have the same reload speed, even though the drum gun has 10 more bullets in the magazine, whereas the silenced SMG has the smallest magazine size at 30, but also has the fastest reload speed. Now, on top of the damage advantage for the drum gun, it also has the superior damage drop-off profile. It starts damage drop-off around the same time as the other SMGs, but it doesn't drop off quite as fast, and when it reaches maximum damage drop-off range, it has a much more reasonable percentage of retained damage, at about 50%, whereas the other two SMGs stop at less than 40% of their original damage. Although the drum gun is the best in its class when it comes to damage drop-off, it definitely is no mid-range weapon. Compared to the silenced pistol's damage drop-off, which we discussed in my previous video, and the normal assault rifles, you can clearly see that the drum gun just isn't designed to be used at any range other than up close. So amongst the SMGs, the drum gun is clearly the superior close range weapon when it comes to damage drop-off. But of course, damage drop-off isn't the only factor when it comes to how effective a weapon can be. We also have to look at the accuracy of each weapon. Right here is a bullet by bullet comparison of the three SMGs when aiming down sights and strafing. As you can see, the drum gun is more accurate than the compact SMG for the first 2 bullets, but is less accurate at 3 bullets and beyond. It's also important to note that the silenced SMG was the most accurate the entire time. When it comes to the hipfire accuracy of the SMGs, the story is pretty similar, with the compact SMG starting out the least accurate and then the drum gun taking over. However, this time the silenced SMG does actually become less accurate than the compact SMG at 6 bullets, and it will remain that way for the remainder of its magazine. Now, while we're talking about accuracy and hitting your shots, I want to mention quickly the recoil on the drum gun. I don't usually mention recoil when it comes to Fortnite because typically it doesn't really seem to have that much of an impact, and most weapons really don't have that much recoil. But with the drum gun, it seems to have just a little bit more recoil than most weapons, which can cause some problems. On PC, I don't think it's that big of an issue. It doesn't seem like too big of a deal to me, but I do remember back when I was playing on PS4 that it did seem like more of a problem. The way aim assist works in Fortnite and how it sucks onto your opponent, it feels just a little bit weird when the recoil is severe, because the game is constantly trying to decide whether it's going to disengage from the aim assist or whether it's trying to re-engage, and it can definitely cause some problems. So that is something that you consider when looking at the drum gun compared to other weapons, because I do think the drum gun has just a little bit more recoil than other weapons. Next up, let's take a look at how long it takes the drum gun to do 100 body shot damage. Right here is how long it takes the 3 SMGs that we've been comparing in this video to do this, and as you can see, the drum gun is the clear winner. Fun fact, the drum gun is actually the fastest weapon capable of reaching 100 body shot damage, excluding the heavy sniper and silenced sniper. Even the minigun, which has the fastest fire rate of any weapon in Fortnite, wouldn't be able to reach 100 damage faster, even if we were to completely ignore its windup. So why is this so important? Why is being able to do 100 damage in record time so beneficial for the drum gun? Well, obviously this is useful in killing opponents. The starting health of an opponent in Fortnite is 100, so if you get the drum gun off spawn, you can absolutely dominate, especially seeing as Siphon isn't currently in the game, meaning it takes opponents a lot longer to find shields. But remember that the drum gun, although powerful in doing damage to opponents, is very limited by its range. You will only be able to take true advantage of its potential if you're within 20 planks, which is only the distance of 4 floor pieces. The other way this race to 100 damage is beneficial for the drum gun is in destroying builds. The drum gun is the fastest at destroying both wood and brick, and with a massive magazine of 50 bullets, you can potentially destroy 16 wood or brick walls using just one clip. The sheer amount of pressure this weapon puts on your opponents really is unmatched. On screen now is a visual representation I've given in previous videos to show how likely a weapon is to be able to sneak a shot in on a turtling opponent. Sonic represents turbo building, which triggers every 5/100ths of a second, and the weapons represent how long it takes for each given weapon to fire each successive bullet. Now theoretically, no weapon should be able to shoot a turtling player who is just holding down turbo build. But what we aren't taking into consideration with this graph is that we're playing an online game. We have the server refresh rates and the ping of each individual player to consider in this equation. Now as you can see, the compact SMG does have a slightly higher chance of sneaking in a bullet in certain conditions since it has a faster fire rate. But here's two things to consider. Number one, it has 10 less bullets per magazine. And number two, it takes the compact SMG 5 bullets to reach 100 damage, while it only takes 4 bullets for the drum gun. Using some simple math, we can calculate that the drum gun is able to destroy 12 pieces of either brick or wood in just one clip. That is 50% more than the compact SMG, which can only destroy 8, and 100% more than the silenced SMG, which can only destroy 6 in one clip. Although the silenced SMG does benefit from faster reload speeds than the drum gun, as we mentioned previously. This ability to destroy such a large amount of builds allows you more opportunities to potentially sneak a bullet in on a turtling opponent, and having it be all in one clip means that the player doesn't get to make a counterplay until you need to reload. So with all of this information given, I think you'd be hard pressed to say that there is a better SMG currently than the drum gun. It has the same draw speed as the other two SMGs at 33/100ths of a second, so it's great as a combination weapon with the shotgun, and its environmental and opponent damage is so far superior that nothing else really comes close. So the only question we have left to answer is, should the drum gun remain in the game in its current state? In my opinion, it's just too good. I think a very simple solution for this weapon would be to reduce the damage it does to environment down to 24 for the highest rarity. We've seen weapons in the past do more damage to the environment than they did to opponents, although we haven't seen the opposite. But if there's any weapon that should pave the way for this, it would definitely be the drum gun. That one simple change would put it much more in line with the other SMGs, but having a weapon that requires the least amount of bullets to destroy builds and that also has the largest magazine is quite simply a recipe for disaster. Either you need to buff the other weapons to compete with the drum gun, which I think 90% of the community, myself included, wouldn't want, as we would be returning to the spam meta, or you need to nerf the drum gun down to fit into the current state of the game. But then again, we do have one more option.
Put that thing back where it came from, or so help me! So help me! So help me!
Anyway, that's all that I have for this video. I hope that you found it informative. If you're new here and like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. If you'd like to support me when spending V-Bucks or when purchasing games in the Epic Games Store, you can do so by using my code Flamm. Quick reminder, a new season of Fortnite is right around the corner, and purchasing either the Battle Pass or upgrade tiers does help support creators as long as you have their code entered in the item shop. If you'd like to support me, I would definitely appreciate it, but make sure you at least have someone's creator code entered into the shop for this upcoming season. If you made it all the way to this point in the video, thank you so much, I truly do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in my next video.